It's Kip, and today is the 28th, maybe, of April, 2014. I've been wanting to make a video for a little while about kind of the navigating the world as a non-binary person, and kind of some of the challenges that present themselves, because I feel like the trans narrative is like this really particular thing that we kind of not expected to follow, but it's kind of like assumed that we will follow something quite similar to it. And that's kind of like, go to the doctor and like get on tea and book top surgery, and this is for FTMs or transmasculine people. I guess obviously the process is different for trans feminine people, but it's like I find it a little bit difficult because I don't really fit into that as much. Like, I don't know if I want to go on tea yet, maybe ever. I'm still really up in the air about it, and I don't mind taking my time working that out. Like, most of my issue is around like my chest, and that's something that I feel like I'm taking steps towards eliminating, fixing, whatever. I would like to have a much deeper voice and like facial hair, and I'd like to present as male probably, but the fact that I don't isn't like this huge issue. Anyway, so I made a list because I always tend to ramble. I guess the things that are really difficult that I find is this whole idea, and people talk about it a lot, but it's really true about not being trans enough. It's like, if you don't have dysphoria in a textbook clinical way, the way that people expect you should, then you don't get to call yourself trans. And I find that frustrating because I feel like it's like we're excluding different groups within a really tiny community as it is, and the trans community is small. It's a small percent of the population, and then there's lots of little branches and groups and communities within that. And the idea of like, everyone, I'm assuming, is seeing all the true scum stuff around, and it's like, fuck, we're segregating on this tiny community that really should be like, sticking together and raising awareness as a community, not like policing people on how to be transgender. I can understand people like, that person's trans and I don't feel that way, but to be like, I don't feel that way, and you feel this way, so you can't be trans. It's like kind of really frustrating. And a difficult element of like some of it, it's not really on YouTube, I find, it's really on Tumblr. This true scum kind of thing. I've never really had anyone tell me I'm not trans enough on YouTube, which is really good. I feel like the community here is really supportive of non-binary people as a whole, which is really great. But I find that that's not everywhere. And there's definitely this idea that if you don't have like dysphoria about every single part of your body, then you're not trans. And I think there's like, who are you to tell people how they have their gender? It's like what we're fighting against as a community, to like be seen as being able to represent ourselves and our gender however we want, but then to be like, well, we can do this but you can't, is like really fucked up. I guess some of the difficulties too is in explaining it to people who are outside of the trans community, so like friends, family, colleagues, the general community who only might have heard like a little bit about transgender issues, and then you kind of talk about trans stuff and they're like, well, that's not you though, that's like different. You're not saying that you're a boy, or you're not saying this, you're kind of, so maybe what you're experiencing isn't actually trans issues, it's like, it's something else. It's, you're unhappy with this part of your body, or maybe you have body dysmorphia, or maybe it's part of like, I get like my anxieties and all this kind of stuff, which I can totally see why people would think that, because the non-binary like perspective is really not there's not a whole lot of stuff out there about it. And I mean, transgender issues are getting a little bit more attention in the media lately with like, I mean, Laverne Cox is just gorgeous, so good at like advocating for trans issues. And so I think that's been really positive. Like people kind of are getting to know what the term actually means. But then if you're even in a smaller subcategory of that, it's like, and then you don't fit that typical narrative, I think people question whether or not you're, really trans, or that's where the idea of trans enough comes from. Which I think I struggle with a little bit because I identify with so much of the trans narrative, but just not all of it. Like, only about tea. Like, I think I might win it one day, but I'm not sure yet, and I'm not going to make any decisive decisions until I'm like 100% or as close to 100% sure as I can. Like I'm 99.9% sure about top surgery, so like that's in the works, but I'm like 15% sure about tea. It kind of varies all the time, and I feel like until I can, I'm rambling. But I guess the point I wanted to make is about like being aware that not everybody is binary. In fact, I know lots and lots of people, and more by the day, that are not. And I don't know, just being aware of that in language and in advocating for trans stuff, just keeping it in mind, because it can be difficult being in like a subcategory of a subcategory of a minority of a minority of a minority. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I had a lot more points before I started making this, and I got distracted. Coffee and dogs. Yeah, 37 minutes, so I might sign off now and maybe expand on this. I'd like to hear other people's discussion points about it, particularly non-binary folks. Because I know there's lots of us out there. It's just, I think it's not a harder set of problems. It's just sometimes a slightly different set of problems that there isn't a whole lot of information out there about. I think all of my intro and stuff from non-binary folks has come from like YouTube and Tumblr. Like even at the top surgery appointment the other day, he like misgendered me, but not as female as male, which I quite liked. I don't mind people using male pronouns for me, but even then I was just like assumed because I'm in his office and getting top surgery that I'm a boy, or I view myself as a boy, which like it wasn't problematic, but it could have been if I didn't feel comfortable with male pronouns. So yeah. Anyway, hope everyone's having a really good day, and yeah, I will talk to you soon.